I'd rather be here than there anyway, right? In the dome.
I don't know what's in the name, what's in
There's Scotch.
I'm okay. Thank you for thinking of me.
Let's go. I'm all in. Let's go. I'm all in. He's got a look of courage.
Amen. Get into maybe.
I don't know. Gotta do repeats. I don't know, right? So we went there, said
All right, Jamo say good night of Shabbos, everyone. Steve, who are our sponsors for tonight?
Okay. Sponsors for tonight are the Openin family in honor of the wisdom and guidance of Rabbi Sober, radiates honor Kehila. Jacob Blumenfeld in memory of his grandfather, Reuben Leib and Mayor Reuben Blumenfeld, whose yard is actually tonight. We should have Aliyah. And Yehuda and Sarah Rolls in honor of Rabbi Sober.
Thank you, Yossi. Thank you, Yehuda. Okay, everyone. A good night of Shabbos, a tremendous chos Baruch Hashem to be able to enter into Shabbos Nachamu with the words of our Rebbe, the words of the Piaget, and also a tremendous shkoyach to Reb Tzvi for the beautiful spread tonight. Mamish, beautiful. Incredible, beautiful. Okay, and also, and of course, a thank you to Reb Steve, our Shir Gabbai. Baruch Hashem for always taking such good care. Make sure we have the sponsors, making sure we have the mashka. We have a wonderful.
Go get some more mashka.
Okay. Hatzlacha. All right, so we're picking up tonight in Meretz Hashem. We have a couple of short but really beautiful and impactful pieces by the Rebbe. So we're starting out in section Chaf Aleph. So the Rebbe says as follows, and again, these are shorter pieces as you'll see tonight, but the themes are dramatically amazing. So it's section Chaf Aleph, page Shin Lamed Tes. So the Rebbe writes as follows. He says like this: Rabim misnachamim ba'atzmu leimar. There are many people who try to console themselves with the following. As well say, just understand something. The notion of making excuses for ourselves, right? The notions of making excuses for ourselves and giving ourselves an out for not accomplishing is not the new dynamic, right? This is as old as time, right? From the moment that Adam Arishon is confronted by the Chet and he goes ahead and he blames it on Chava, Adam, the Gemara brings down, Chazal bring down that had Adam Arishon, and truth is the Baal Shem Tov HaKadosh brings down, but all Adam Arishon had to do, all he had to do when confronted with his mistake, what did he have to do? He just had to own it. And John Chavi, the Rebbe Shalom doesn't ask us not to make mistakes. We're all going to make mistakes. That's an inevitable part of our lives. The difference just is, all HaKadosh Baruch Hu asks of us is that when we do make a mistake, to own it. Like David HaMelech does, right? David HaMelech, the Gemara says, models for us what about tshuva is. David HaMelech is confronted by Nasan Hanavi about the events with Bathsheba. And what does David say? 2 words. Chatasi Lashem. Chatasi Lashem, I made a mistake. And as a result, he's forgiven. There's repercussions, there's fallout, every action has a reaction. But David HaMelech models for us in this incredibly dramatic way that when you make a mistake in life, all HaKadosh Baruch Hu asks of us is just own it. Just own it, just take responsibility, just accept what it is that you did, and just pledge to do better next time. But we've said this before, we spend so much energy deflecting, right, when we make a mistake. The amount of energy that goes into creating a narrative as to why it's not my fault, right? Whose fault is it? My father never played catch with me when I was little, right? And my mother, she didn't, sing lullabies to me when I was going to sleep. And my siblings were mean to me. And the teacher gave me cookies last. And, the Rebbe never called on me. And whatever. And by the way, some of the things may actually be legitimate things that could actually stunt a person's personalistic growth. There are definitely things like that. But at the end of the day, the buck of your life stops with you, right? The buck of your life stops with you. You decide what you're not going to make of yourself. But we spend so much energy and so much time trying to deflect responsibility for what we do and what we don't do. That the truth is, it's exhausting. It's so interesting. The most efficient and least exhausting thing to do is to own it. Because it's done. I did it. I own it. The amount of time that goes into constructing the complex narrative as to why it's not my fault. It's the world's fault. It's everyone else's fault. It's exhausting. So but the good part is we think like we have new problems. Like Shlomo Melech says, "In chadash tachas hashemesh," there is nothing new under the sun. Nothing new under the sun. But I'll say, just like people think, today in today's day and age, so people like to blame all of life's problems and ills on technology. Right, it's all technology and lace-top shaitels. It's both of those. Yeah, it's both of those things. Right, so Lamaisa, right, technology and technology. Okay, so technology poses a challenge. But don't think for a second that people weren't distracted before technology. Right? In other words, distractions and losing your way. Okay, technology makes it a lot easier to be distracted. And unfortunately, it's easy to get distracted with some pretty terrible and detrimental and harmful things. But Lamaisa, the human condition is the human condition. So look at the Rebbe writes in Chav Aleph. He says, Rabbim, misnachamim ba'atzmim leimar. There are many people who console themselves saying. In other words, people give themselves... Ali, what are you looking for? Oh, we have concierge service like that. Incredible. I did not know. All right, fantastic. Tell Steve I need to be moved in when he gets back. All right? You know? So the Rebbe says like this. He says, Rabbi Misnachem Lemar. There are many people who console themselves with the following idea. They say, Im eini oved es Hashem ki chovasi, v'lo mekudosh kitzarki. I know that I am not serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu the way that I need to serve Him. I know that, right? I know that I'm not davening the way that I need to be davening, whether it's that I'm not davening with a minyan, and I should be davening with a minyan, or I'm davening with a minyan, but maybe my davening is just not what it should be. Or my learning, again, I'm not learning, I am learning, I'm not learning enough. When I am learning, I'm not attentive. Whatever it is, a person, in a moment of honesty, a person is able to say, I know that I am not serving the Ribono Shel Olam as I should. Al kol pamim, ratzon tov yeshli. So it was incredible. How do we console ourselves? Right? At least I really have a good desire. The good news is, I really want it. Right? The rutzin is there, right? I could take like the kavanim. You shouldn't think chasron that I don't want it. Right? I want it very badly. Not badly enough to do anything about it, but I really, really want it. I really want to be in shul on time. That's really, if you ask me, like, what do I want in my neshama? I want to get to shul on time. Right? How badly do I want it? I want it badly enough to want it. I want it badly enough to want it. And I will say, how many things in life kind of measure up to this? I want it so badly, but I just want it badly enough that the emotion is there, but I am absolutely not ready to actually do anything about it. I'm not ready to do anything. But the nice part is I console myself. The intention is there, good intentions. The machshavas are there. The Rebbe says, At shaharbe pamim libi tzoig machovav umehis rachakuso. The Rebbe says sometimes, I want it so badly. You know how badly I want it? That I feel my neshama crying out for it. That's how badly I want it, right? And I will say, you fill in we all have areas in our Yiddishkeit exactly like this. I know that I should be doing X. I know that I should be doing it. And I want to do it, but I'm not doing it. And April say, if we're honest with ourselves, 9.9 out of 10 times when we're not doing the things that we know we should be doing, it's not because there's some major external obstacle. It's because, I don't know, I'm not willing to push hard enough, I'm not willing to give something else up, whatever it might be. But yet, we have an interesting mechanism to deal with this. How do you assuage the guilt? Right? How do we minimize the guilt? We console ourselves by saying, but at least I want it. And you see, since I want it so badly, what that says about my neshama. And by the way, that's not an incorrect statement. It's true. Or as we'll say, there's something worse. There's a worse state, which is where you don't want anything at all. Right? It's where a person is so dulled to everything that I don't even have a desire for something greater. That's even worse. But the Rebbe says that those things in life, this is remember, just I say it every Safazir is the Rebbe's diary. This is where the Rebbe gets very real. He's talking about his own dynamics. He's talking about his own life. He's talking about his own struggles. So the PhD knows that areas in his life where he's like, I know that I'm not doing what I should be doing, and I know my heart cries out for it. I want it, I desire it, but I'm not doing it, but I console myself by saying, at least I want it. So the Rebbe says, Aval ha'isnachim, ha'gulgolas hatzafa al pnei hamayim, bazel levad sherotza v'hatzilas asmo v'lio v'koi v'lo v'tzorech la'al nafsho. So we'll say the Rebbe gives it's a powerful mashal. The Rebbe says, if a person drowns and the body is floating on top of the water, can the body console itself by saying, well, I really wanted to get out of the water, right? In other words, I know that I treaded into deep water. I really wanted to walk out. The Ratzon was there. The Ratzon was really there to extricate myself from the water. I wanted it more than anything. My body wasn't willing to comply, but I really want. Is it a nechama? So he says, is it a nechama literally to the skull floating on the top of the water, that it really wanted to get out of the water, but just didn't really feel like doing it physically, but really wanted it. In chas v'shom yatzas atzmo v'lo yala min hanash shetavabo. Both say, what do you do when you're in deep water? What do you do when you're in deep water and you feel you're in danger? What do you do? What do you do? What do you do? Get out. Get out. All right, tread water. Yeah, it's a good start, right? I'm saying, right? You get out. You don't get out. You don't think about, you know what? It would be so nice not to be treading water in such deep water. Let me cogitate on that a little bit, right? Let me dream about how nice it would be not to be in this scary deep water. Instead, what do? You swim out. You get out. You don't think about what you're going to do. You do it. And you don't console yourself with some imagination or some idea of how I'm going to extricate myself from this dangerous situation. You do it. Because you realize that if you don't do it, what happens? If you don't do Rahman, what happens? You die. You die. So the Rebbe says something amazing. He says, there's this fine line. On one hand, to have desires for greater things. Right? We'll say, to have that burning desire in your heart. I'll tell you something interesting. Usually I think so many of us feel this, like on Yom Kippur. Like that euphoric feeling, like after Ne'ilah, where you were exhausted 2 minutes ago, and now as Hashem Elokim, like you're on fire, and you're out in Kiddush Levana, and you don't need to eat for another 24 hours. You're like, I'm good, let's go. That euphoric feeling where and what do you want in that moment? Right? If somebody were to ask you, what are you going to do now? What are you going to do now? The truth is, I'm sorry? Disney, right? So you say, right? It's like, what are you going to do now? So I'll tell you personally, what's interesting is, if someone were to answer that question, I can say, the truth is, it's not really a function of what I want to do. It's how I feel. That right? I'm sorry?
You want to hold on?
You want right? It's I feel like my heart is bursting with kedusha, and all I want to do is I want to remember Lahavdi. Remember Pac-Man? Remember Pac-Man? Right? What was the whole level of the Pac-Man? Right? He's like a chazer, right? He eats up all that stuff everywhere. Hey, so sometimes the neshama feels like that also. Just give me. I'll tell you something amazing. This year, for the first time ever, I felt that after Tisha B'Av. I think for all of us, this Tisha B'Av was just dramatically different. And there was, I think, a certain euphoric feeling after Tisha B'Av. By that Ma'ariv, after that Kumzitz, by Kiddush Levana. So sometimes the neshama does have that the neshama says, I just want more. If you ask me after Ne'ilah, what do I want to do? I want to go and build my sukkah, I want this. But it's not what I want to do, it's what I want. I just want. I want. So that power of wanting is powerful. The Rebbe says, what's the mistake? Is that sometimes we content ourselves that I'm a wanter. It's the wrong word, but I'm a wanter? A wanter, a needer. Right now, I'm a wanter, right? I'm a person, I'm a desirer, right? I want. So we think, oh, look at me. I'm a guy who wants Kiddusha. And again, a part of myself will say, you know what? Let's be clear, that is an accomplishment, because a lot of the world doesn't want Kiddusha. So to be the kind of person who actively wants Kiddusha, that's fantastic. The Rebbe says, here's the problem. Sometimes we give ourselves such a big shkoyach for wanting that we forget, oh, by the way, detail asterisk, right? You have to do something with the wanting. If the wanting doesn't translate into action, the wanting at a certain point becomes meaningless. It's like the husband who really wants to be a supportive spouse, but yet never compliments his wife, never says thank you, never does things without being asked. The machshava is all the way, right? You say to my wife, if you look into my heart, it's filled with love for you. I'm not doing anything around here, right? But look into my heart, it's filled with love with you. Now let's say, we all know, such a relationship like that is not going to last very long. What you have in your heart is very nice, as long as it translates into action. But after a certain point in time, Rabbi say, see, what the Rebbe is going to highlight over here, what happens, Rabbi say, if all you have is want, and you carry it around too long and it never translates into action, what happens? Right? Disappointment, and it even becomes a shtickle disingenuous. don't tell me that I really want it when I'm not doing anything with it. How could I say that I really want Kedusha if somehow behaviorally, actionally, it's not translating into something? I must say, it's such an incredible thing. So on one hand, the power of wanting, right? The power of being a wanter, we're coining that term over here, right? The power of being a wanter is so incredibly powerful because it shows what my heart wants. The Rebbe says, but people make the mistake. Say, I want the right things in life. Beautiful. The kavanas are great. Fantastic. The intentions are holy. Incredible. The Rebbe says, no. Incredible first step. But if it doesn't translate into action, then you're just like the person who wanders into deep water, thinks about extricating himself from the deep waters, but never quite gets around to walking out of the water. So the person could give their corpse in a chama afterwards. They're saying, I really thought about getting you out of harm's way. Machshavas are great. Intentions are great. Desires are fantastic. But they have to, at a certain point, translate into dynamic activity. And I will say, this is our first avoda for the night. And the Rebbe is going to teach us a lot tonight. First piece is to really engage in this exercise and to think about, what are the things that I really want of myself and want of my life? And then to ask myself the interesting question is, okay, now I have the list of all the things I want for myself out of life. And now to see, second column is, which of those things am I acting on? Right? What am I acting on? I will say, you could plug this in with anything. I want shalom bayis. I want shalom bayis. Okay, so what am I doing to achieve shalom bayis? I want to be. I was just speaking with somebody after early Mincha Ma'ariv today. A person was talking to me about how he just doesn't like to daven. He davens all the time. Makbid daven with a minion all the time. He just has a sefer open, in front of him. Just doesn't find davening of interest. He'll learn all this stuff. So he's what should I do? So I said, what should you do? I said, what should you do? What are you doing? He's what do you mean? I said, so you have a problem, you don't like davening. What are you doing to try to fix that? What are you doing to address that? How long has this been going on? Oh, he's this has been about 20 years. I said, 20 years. I said, tell me, what have you tried to do in 20 years? Yeah, nothing. Okay, so Klal Gadol in life, this is free advice. If you have a problem and you do nothing to address it, statistical probability is it's just going to continue. That's just the way that it is. Whether it's davening, whatever it might be. So I will say, so we kind of content. But yeah, the guys in Mamish, this was such hashkacha. He said to me, he's but I really want to daven with kavana. I said, okay. I said, Shir is at 8 o'clock. Shir is at 8 o'clock. He's not here. Whatever. He wanted to come. Why you should daven? You should want to daven. You should want to daven. Levi Yitzchak. So yeah.
Is there any parallel to the story in Avot about when he sees the skull floating on the river?
So it's interesting. So there, right, that Mishnah is more like a midah kineged midah. I thought when I saw this that he was drawing on that parallelism. I don't know. Maybe he is. Yeah, correct. That's more like a midah kineged midah type of thing. But I don't know. I thought about it, but I didn't have a chance to get my eye into it anymore. So this is lesson number 1. Lesson number 1 is the list. What do you want out of life? That's column 1. Column 2. What am I doing to turn those things into dynamic activity? How are they finding the expression in my life? And chances are, all of us have things in life that we really want that we're not doing anything about. That's the human condition. So the shaila is, do I want to change that? Do I want to just stop wanting and start doing? Or am I going to content myself with just wanting? And the Rebbe warns us, contenting yourself with just wanting ultimately leads to disappointment and disillusionment, because at a certain point in time, I will begin to feel like a fraud, because I'm going to have to be honest with myself that here I've wanted this thing for so long, and yet I've done nothing about it. If that's the case, once it becomes a little bit circular, then clearly I don't want it. Right? If I really, at a certain point, I have to be honest, if I really wanted it, it would translate into dynamic activity. And at a certain point, if it doesn't translate into dynamic activity, then I don't really want it. Don't content yourself with wanting, but make sure the things you want in life find expression in dynamic behavior. Chaf Aleph. Chaf Beis. A lot to do tonight. But I will say, this piece is transformative. They're all transformative, but look at Chav Beis. This I will say, this might be one of the hardest things that the Rebbe has written so far. Listen to this. Rak mi sheyochol lahafkir ulahashlich as da'agosav al shah al kolpanim. Yochol gam beruchav v'nishmaso lidlog al shah amatzav agadol. Suppose let's talk this outside. Mimano. Let's outside just a second. The Rebbe over here is talking about a fascinating process. He says a person has to go ahead and carve out time in which he does not think about any of his problems. Yeah, look at his lashon. Rak mi sheyochol lahafkir ulahashlich as da'agosav. A person has to train themselves mentally. For some, he says lefi shah, right? Al shah. Al shah doesn't have to mean an hour. Al shah just means some amount of time, whatever amount of time. But a person has to condition themselves to have some time every single day where I am not thinking about my problems. I'll say what the Rebbe is describing over here is the need for a certain amount of time to clear your mind. To clear your mind. He's calling it da'agosa, but it's not just your worries. Really what he's referring to over here is everything. Just to clear your mind of all things. Now, specifically, worries are a big thing, because also we know that when we worry about things, so what happens? They take over everything, right? It's an incredible thing how we're programmed. Like, if you have a bracha in your life, it's fascinating how you don't think about it all the time, right? And like, I think about it now, I think about it then, but it's not necessarily always in my consciousness. Yet, when you have a problem, it's always there. It's always there. So the Rebbe says, a person has to master almost like this level of mindfulness, this level of control, where they're able to clear their mind from all of their problems. And Rebbe will say, now why is that? Look what he writes over here. He says, Yochol gam beruchav v'nishmasa lidlog al hashah al matzav hagod, page shin mem, al matzav hagodol mimeno. So we'll say, now listen to this. What should I do? What should I do ultimately again when I clear my mind from all of my problems? So the Rebbe says, you have to think about the great levels that you could reach. Clear your mind so you can think about, again, the great levels of spiritual, personalistic accomplishment that you could reach. So what the Rebbe is saying is like this. When the mind is occupied with my life challenges, so that's what I'm thinking about, and often again, in the midst of those life challenges, I'm focused on everything that's broken. When you're focused on everything that's broken, it's very difficult to see greatness in your future. Right? It's very difficult to see that you could reach some level that transcends this current reality. The Rebbe says it is so, and this is going to tie into the next section as well, it is so important to go ahead and clear your mind at some point of the day from all of your troubles so that you could think for a little bit about your personalistic potential greatness. They'll say, isn't this a beautiful exercise? The Rebbe is saying every day you have to think about how great you could become. So you'll say, this is not like when we think about a lot of times like classic Musar, right? So often classic Musar is focused on thinking about your shortcomings, thinking about your wrongdoings, and reflecting on. And by the way, there's absolutely a place and an importance for that as well. But the Rebbe says, just as important as focusing on your shortcomings is taking time every day. Do you have a clear image of greatness for yourself in your mind? Who does the great you look like? And we'll say, obviously, a realistic image. Not the guy who's learning in an alleyway in Meir Sharim, 17 hours a day. That's not you. That's not me. That's not any of us, right? That's not. I will say that's not supposed to be us. That's not our trajectory. We have there are certain people for whom that's their trajectory. We have a different trajectory. He'll say, when you close your eyes, are you able to envision the great image of you, or the image of you as a great person? What does he look like? What is he doing? How does he spend his time? What is he doing with his life? How does he interact with people? What is he doing for his mishpacha? What is he doing for his community? What is he doing for Klal Yisrael? So the Rebbe says the only way you're ever going to get to think about those kind of things is if you find a little bit of time in which you're able to clear away all of the stuff that is so often weighing us down. You got to create some space up here, maybe it's better, some space in here, to imagine what your future personalistic greatness looks like. We always come back to the same. So I always give the same mashal. That's a good mashal for this time of year, right? Spain Azmanim. Somebody asked me today, what are you doing for Bein Hazmanim? That's what I'm saying. I was like, Bein Hazmanim of what? Of what? Which Bein Hazmanim are we referring to over here? Bein Hazmanim. I said I davened on 7:30 on Wednesday instead of 6:30. It was actually very nice. It was off. It was very nice. It was very nice. I was supposed to say. So the Maisa, what's so interesting is as follows. So we always give the same mashal, right? You're going on vacation with your family. You pack up the car, right? You're all ready to go. Everything is done, right? You start the car. You start driving, and then what happens? You realize you forgot one little detail, which is where are you going? Oh, you got everything. You got the food for enough for a third world country. We've got this. We've got everything. We have more than enough for everything. Oh, we just forgot the destination. Not a destination. I will say, so you say to yourself, that's ridiculous. That's crazy. I will say, that's what we do throughout most of life. In other words, I'm working, I'm this, I'm that, and I'm doing good stuff. There's only one little piece that's missing, which is like, where am I going? Like, where am I going? Where am I going? You know, say, Ravelli's not here. We're going to sing "I'm on My Way" tonight, But like, part of the reason why that Kabach Niggin is like it's Kabach, right? Why that's so stirring is because like to be able to say I'm on my way somewhere is such an incredible accomplishment. So I know that I'm on my way to Yerushalayim. We're all on our way to Yerushalayim. Rabbi Nachman said, it was before Shlomo Kabach. It was Rabbi Nachman said, "L'chol makom shani holech, ani holech Yerushalayim." Wherever I'm going, Rabbi Nachman said, I'm always walking towards Yerushalayim. You always have to have a kivun. You always have to have a direction. So often in life, we're just so mired in just day to day that we don't have a direction. So the Rebbe says, well, you got to get a direction. Otherwise, how do you know what you're doing? So people say, do you know what the scariest thing in life is? If you think, I think at least, as I get older, I think about this a lot. The scariest thing in life is not the difficulty of leading a good life, right? It's actually relatively easy to lead a good life, especially as a yid. Like we have everything kind of charted out for us. There's mitzvahs. I'm going to daven, I'm going to learn, I'm going to give tzedakah, I'm going to do chesed. That's a great life. That's a fantastic life. The scariest thing about life is not, am I going to lead a good life? It's that, am I going to optimize the life that I have been given? There is a mission for each of us to fulfill. There's a tachlis. There's a purpose. There's a destination. There is something that I am supposed to do that is uniquely my mission. And the scary part of life is the ability to fundamentally miss that. This is the famous Malbim. The Malbim says, when Mordechai tells Esther to go to Achashverosh. So she says, remember again, Esther, right? Mordechai says, go to Achashverosh, the whole decree. Esther originally says, what's Esther's original answer? Her initial answer is no. I mean, she doesn't say no, she says it nicer. She says, everyone knows if you go to the king without being invited, it's a death sentence. Mordechai says, listen, Esther, go. If you don't want to go, it's fine. Hashem doesn't depend on any of us for anything. The Kadosh Baruch Hu gives us the opportunity, the zechus, to partner with him in the actualization of the divine plan. But if I don't want to do my part, the divine plan will actualize without me. But Mordechai says to mi yodeya im la'is kazos higat lemalchus. Maybe this was the moment that you became queen. And the Malbim comments the most profound, I think, perish in all of Tanakh. The Malbim says like this. Malbim says sometimes HaKadosh Baruch Hu creates a person to accomplish one thing in one moment. And sometimes HaKadosh Baruch Hu puts multiple generations in this world just to bring about one person to do one thing in one moment. The scary part of life is if you miss your moment, you run the risk of denying meaning to your life and potentially to the lives of those who came before you. Mi yodea im la'is kazos higat lemalchus. Even Mordechai, right? If you notice, Mordechai doesn't say to Esther, this is your moment. He doesn't say that, right? What does he say? Mi yodea, maybe. Remember again, there's no nevuah. There's no prophecy in Megillas Esther. So Mordechai says, listen, I don't know. Maybe it is your moment, maybe it's not your moment. Certainly looks like it's your moment. Certainly looks like that, but I don't know. But here's what I do know is, if it is your moment, and you miss it, hareat ubeis avich tovedu. The Bible says, what does that mean? You and your father's home will disappear? Esther, if this was your moment, and the only reason your parents were born was to bring you to this moment, and the only reason your grandparents were born was to bring your parents who could bring you to this moment, and the only reason your great-grandparents were born was to bring your grandparents to bring your parents, bring you to this moment, and if you miss your moment, you run the risk of denying meaning to your life and all of those who came before you. Overwhelming. We're put here for a moment. And by the way, it might not just be one moment. It might be multiple moments throughout life. Now let's say, but how do you know what your moment is if you're not a future forward-thinking person? If I have no direction, if I have no image for the person who I want to become, you know what life becomes? Life becomes one big to-do list. Right? Which now to-do lists are great. Let's say, you know that euphoric feeling you get when you reach the end of your to-do list? I have yet to experience that, but one day, right?
I've heard, the rub is heard.
Right, one day. Hey, let's say, so it's great, right? It's a nice feeling of accomplishment. The problem is, I will say, you could lose yourself in what we call to-do list accomplishment. To-do list accomplishment is episodic, it's immediate, it's temporal, it's all important, but it's not necessarily grand vision accomplishment. So the Piagetna says, how do you know what your grand vision for life is if you don't take time to think about it? And the only way to think about it, says the Piagetna, is if you find the ability to clear your mind a little bit from your challenges. Because when the challenges are rattling around in here, they don't stop. And the truth is, often, and I must say, I'm not even, by the way, when I say challenges, you don't even have to get into like the really heavy stuff in life, right? Even just, we all have challenges day to day, stuff that like distracts us, stuff that we think about, stuff that preoccupies us. The Rebbe says, I have to train my mind. To kind of clear that out. Again, not for long. Shah could mean an hour, shah could mean a moment. For some amount of time, predefined amount of time where clearing my mind, like when did we speak about this? Oh, I spoke this on Tisha B'Av afternoon. It's a beautiful Rabbi Nachman. Rabbi Nachman says, the pasuk in Mishlei says that, I forgot the lashon of the pasuk, but the pasuk says, the pasuk talks about, the Mishlei talks about the power of a cold wind on a hot day. And like when it's a hot day and there's a little breeze, like it's restorative. So the Rebbe says, you know what else is like cold wind on a hot day? A deep cleansing breath. The Rebbe says sometimes in life you take a deep breath, right? You do breathing exercises. You breathe in, you exhale. And when you exhale and you have kavanah that, you know what, with that exhale I'm kind of clearing my mind a little bit. I'm clearing my heart. I'm making space to think about stuff that's not in the here and now, but I'm thinking about the future. I'm thinking about the me I want to be. Not the me that I am, but the me I really want to be. The Rebbe says, suddenly for those few moments, something amazing happens, which is you're transported to that person. In those moments when you think about the great future you, the Rebbe says you actually become that great future you. If you're able to clear your mind a little bit and get to that level of just awareness, thoughtfulness, and mindfulness, where all I'm occupied is not with the problems of the present, but ultimately, again, who I want to be, where I want to get to, what direction I'm going, what destination I want to arrive at, the Rebbe says, for those few moments, you're living in that place. For those few moments, you're not present you. For those few moments, you're future you. And look what the Rebbe says. He says, "Mushlach u'meruchak ani mimcha u'mikol." I'm sorry, wrong page. Right? V'af im nofel, page shin mem. V'af. Let's just finish this up. V'af im nofel achar kach shuv l'matzav al-kodem. Now, boss, you say to yourself, "That's very nice. That's very nice." So what's going to happen? I'm going to take my deep cleansing breath. I'm going to clear my mind. I'm going to stop thinking about the problems of now and just for a few minutes think about who I want to be, what I want to be, what I want to accomplish, the future me, the destination I want to get to. That's beautiful. We'll say, what happens 5 minutes later? What happens 5 minutes? So I give myself 10 minutes to think about. What happens 10 minutes? 10 minutes?
That's the stress.
Right? So mamish. So now, by the way, now it's even worse. I'm like, oh my God, I just wasted 10 minutes. Right now, like, right? So I say, so now I'm back. Right now I'm back. So okay, very nice. I had those 2 minutes, but now I landed back. The Rebbe says, Shabbos say, it'd be easy to think, okay, that was a nice exercise, but it didn't actually do anything for me. The Rebbe says, no. Even though then afterwards you revert back to what you were, the Rebbe says, once you've had those few moments of mindfulness, and you've spent a few moments standing in the shoes of future you, then what happens? It's easier to get back there next time. Now, I just want to tell you that this is something. This piece from the Rebbe, I think, answers something that all of us struggle with all the time. Let me give you Mashal David Omer. Mashal David Omer. Bless you. Let's say I struggle with a particular Avera. We'll just call it Avera A for the sake of preserving. Right? Good. Right? We'll call it Avera A. This is not like a... that's right. It's not like a support... I guess it is a shtickle support group. This is like... So I struggle with Avera A. So what happens? I decide, you know what? I make all strategy. I'm not going to indulge in this Avera. Day goes by. Week goes by. 3 months go by. Great. So then what happens? I have a lapse. So I will say, what goes through your mind when you have that lapse? What goes through your mind? Give up, right? See, what's so fascinating is when we think to ourselves is, okay, so obviously, right, that was wasted. I built myself up for 3 months, right? And now again, I relapsed, so to speak. I sin relapsed. So obviously the past 3 months are meaningless. The Rebbe says no. The Rebbe says, every single time in Ruchnius you accomplish something, even if you fail, the next time becomes easier because of the unit of accomplishment you have locked in. I will say, this is mine. I've been waiting for this piece from the Rebbe for my entire life. Because this for me is one of the things I struggle with most. Try to not do a particular Avera, work on it, get a good stretch, relapse. And then again, another stretch, relapse. Another stretch, relapse. And at a certain point, we saw this before, at a certain point, person begins to feel like, you know what, forget it. This is ridiculous. It's meaningless. Obviously, I'm never going to overcome this. This is not going to work. And if every time I'm relapsing, that means, again, we'll call it the period of sin abstinence beforehand, is meaningless. If at the end of the day, I just ended right back up in the midst, enmeshed, mired in the same Aveira as before, so what good was the period before? And the Rebbe says, no, chas v'shalom. How can you say that? When you abstain from that Aveira for 1 day, for 3 days, for 10 days, for 3 months, whatever it was, you're building up a koach inside of you. And even when you sin again and you relapse, that koach doesn't evaporate. That koach is there. Right? That koach is there. It's like lahavdil, I would imagine that if a person lifts weights, right, and they go ahead and every single day they're lifting weights, every single day, right, for 3 months straight, they're building up their muscle. Then they decide, you know what, today, donuts. I am just eating donuts, right? Today's my donut day. That's it, I'm just eating donuts. Morning, noon, afternoon, right, evening, donuts, donuts, of course, right? Donuts, right? All donuts, all the time. And then at the end of the day, right, the bike is spilling over everywhere. I feel disgusting. I feel this. And I think to myself, all of that muscle building, all of that time to waste. It's not true. The muscle's still there. Now, in that moment, I just feel like a disgusting mess, right? And I feel like all of that work beforehand is gone. But it's false. The muscle that was built up over all of that time is absolutely present. Okay, now maybe there's a little more calories that I have to burn through. Now I accumulate a little bit more calories, right? But lamaisa, the muscle's still there. Is this not just a profound yisod? The Rebbe says it's the same thing with chait. So we abstain and we're good and we're strong for a while, and then I sin again, and we think, everything I did before evaporates. Not true. It's the muscle. All that time of abstinence, I was building up spiritual muscle. So now, one day, I indulged in donuts. Sinful donuts, right? I ate the donut of sin, morning, noon, and evening. Okay, so now I put on a couple extra calories that I have to burn off. But the muscle's still there. So we'll say, this to me is like one of the most I'm assuming, are you just tired because of the chicken? Is it all the oil? What is what everyone's saying? This is like, yeah, chat. Oh, so don't say it. If that's how you preface it. All right, whatever. Go ahead, say it.
Like the flip side, if somebody was like mired in sin every day after day after day, and then one day they say I'm not sinning. So can somebody flip that logic and say like, do you think you're such a good person? Like you just.
Oh, by the way, it's a great point. And here's the incredible thing: it doesn't work both ways. You're right. It doesn't work both ways. The ability to become an instantaneous Baal Tshuva and essentially build up all that spiritual muscle in a moment is possible. Yesh kana olamo v'shah achas. There is that you are. That's not cynical at all. You're right. It's a very important point. It doesn't work both ways. It only works, right? It only works when you've built up spirituality and then it elapsed. Then ultimately the power is still there. You have to work off the calories, but you can affect instantaneous change to becoming a Baal Tshuva. Whether you could retain that, hard to retain that, but yes, it works. Not cynical at all. Yeah.
So I was thinking about what you were talking, not the very end of what you're talking about, but before, about spending 5-10 minutes to what can I be, where do I want to go. Since I've moved here, which is 4 years ago, I've probably read 25 or 30 biographies. And I know what you said about Arsenal biographies. But let's say that 70% of it is true, okay?
Right. 60.
60.
Yeah, okay.
So I was trying to think of the common thread of why I like reading biographies. It's a double-edged sword. One is I like reading about stories about successful people. The flip side is I don't like reading about it because I start thinking about how I'm not doing it. But I was thinking about why are these people so successful? And the reason, I don't think they spend much time thinking about what I could do. Like the most recent one I'm reading is Reb Michelbeer Weissman. Okay, it's a story. It's unbelievable what he did. It's tragic. At the end of the day, he saved a lot of Jews, but he had such guilt about so many Jews that he didn't save in the Holocaust. And then he says at the end, I'm not at the end, but at the end of this part of the book, he talks about how, I don't know if you'll know the story, but he was working to save Jews in the Holocaust, nonstop, for years, nonstop. And he finally gets, he and his family finally get on a train to go to Auschwitz. And he sawed off a window and the spindles to the window, and he told his wife, I'm going, I got to go save more Jews. And he had children on there, and she said, I'm going to give you my son. My son's going to follow. The son didn't follow. He got out. His wife and kids got murdered. Okay? He saved a lot of Jews. At the end of the day, he was so focused on others. He was constantly working on others, that at the end of the day, he said, I probably could have gotten my family out had I had the ability to get them out 2 years ago. And I didn't. The point where I'm going to go with two points. One is,
Let's get there.
I know.
That's why you should
One is they didn't spend much time thinking about how great they can be. They focused on the other, on helping others. And I think if you spend a large part of your time thinking about, when you get with your workday and whatever you have to do, about helping others, a lot of this goes away. Because the satisfaction...
I don't think it has to be an either or.
It's not an either or, but it's just so satisfying to help other people.
Despite of your family?
No.
Your family.
No. Of course. Again, remember. Of course, you have to help other people. I don't think. This is not an either or. It's a Piaget's just saying is. Of course, you can help other people. I'll give you the mashal. If you spend your life standing by the street corner helping old ladies cross the street, is that a life well spent?
No.
Not so bad.
Right?
No.
It's not so bad if that was your purpose. But if that wasn't your purpose, then what you've done is you've occupied yourself with something nice and meaningful, but you never gave thought to maybe what Hakadosh Baruch Hu put you in the world for. So yes, of course, life is all about doing for the other, absolutely. Yeah. But that doesn't preclude you from taking 10 minutes.
No,
10 minutes. But yes, absolutely. I think what Matt's trying to highlight, and this is incredibly important as well, is that one should not think that therefore the ultimate metric of success or determinant of success is thinking about yourself. Right. You're saying there has to be a piece of you that's selfless and devoted to others as well. 100%. And if you talk about the Piagetna in the Warsaw Ghetto operated a soup kitchen, an orphanage, a shul, a system of yeshivas. This is after he lost his son, his daughter-in-law, his mother, his wife, his daughter. He lost everything. And he was 100% devoted to the other. So that same man who was devoted to the other, obviously this was written before, right? But still, you got to know where you're going in life. If you don't know where you're going, if you don't know what you're doing, then ultimately you end up potentially missing out on who and what you could become. So, but it's an important point, not to be focused on itself. Yes?
I have a question about something you said before. In the Dr. Gashmi, shall we say, people have limits. I mean, I could want to be as good of a cook as Tzvi, but that true in a double voting? In other words, how does a person know, saying, listen, I have a limit. I can want to be whatever it is. Everybody has a limit of what they can do. So how do you translate saying, well, how do you know, maybe it's a better word to say, where things that I want are not realistic, but I can't possibly do something to make the good. We're not cut out to be whatever it is to be. You can want to be that way.
So I think that's the beauty of what the Piagestan is discussing over. The Piagestan is saying exactly that. Go through the exercise. Go through the exercise. You're right. This is the $1 million question, right? You know what's so interesting is that how many of us think that like the ideal version of ourselves is learning and davening the whole day. Like if I was the ideal Jew, I'd be learning and davening the whole day. I don't know. There are for some Jews that is ideal. Is that ideal for me? Is that what I'm aspiring to? If I won the lottery tomorrow and my accountant, my wonderful accountant, helped me manage my money so that I was set for life, is that my avoda? Would that be my avoda to go ahead and just sit and learn and daven my whole life? I don't know. But I think that's exactly what the Piagestan is saying, is just at least create the space to think about it. The question is great, and the only way each of us has to answer it. By the way, I would even want to say, based on the comment, I want to mention something also. The vision you create for yourself is not necessarily the vision that remains throughout the rest of your life, right? In other words, so tomorrow, tonight I start this avodah and I have this image of myself in my mind. Looks one way. I would say, the image is going to change very often. Because as I'm changing in the present, who and what I believe I can become in the future moves along with me. So the idea is this is a perpetual, ongoing process, and that future image of me is constantly, I don't know, daily, but constantly changing. So the idea that the Piagestan is saying is at least carve out the time. Once you carve out the time, you've already, to a certain degree, you've made it to that future. Once you've made it to that future, anything you do once, it is always easier to do it a second time. Because once you've done it once, you've built up the muscle. Once you've built up the muscle, even if you spend a long time eating sin donuts, at the end of the day, you've done it once. Because you've done it once, that muscle remains no matter how much you mess up in life. Let's just finish the section. He goes on, Lochein, Misha kol kach gasha legufo, ad she'eno yochol, la'ashlech es da'agos ha'kol shah. Now listen to this. Someone who is so connected to his guf, right? All he is connected to is his physicality, right? To the point that he's unable to detach. I will say, we're not talking about a person over here who's like hedonistic. He's talking about a person who cannot clear his mind. Cannot clear his mind. I will say, by the way, I will go back to the technology piece. This is one of the great challenges we have, right? An inability to go, it's so interesting, right? Like, if you're in an elevator or there's any other time where there's just a few moments of free time, what do people do? They take out their phone, right? Let's say the notion of if there's free time, and again, I don't even mean like if you're wasting your time like on stupidity. I mean like whatever, there's stuff to do. There's emails, there's this, there's that. So Piagestan says, good luck with clearing your mind. Because also, I can't even get through Kedusha, right? Kedusha, even the emotional's got to take us to, I'm saving the world on my device, right? So nothing gets in the way of that. So Lamaisa, again, the Rebbe says, somebody who is so connected to his physical life that he's unable to clear his mind for just a little bit, listen to what he writes, it's going to be very difficult for him to connect to his bigger version of himself. If I'm constantly just connected to day-to-day life and to the day-to-day words and the day-to-day struggles, it's going to be incredibly difficult to ever envision the future me. It's going to be very difficult for me to envision and to imagine ultimately again the future me, the bigger me, the better me, the holier me, the aliyah v'dilug. Shabbos say, really, we'll have to stop over here for tonight. A lot more to do. And we're going to see that Chav Beis continues into Chav Gimel, which we'll get to Meretz Hashem next week. But I will say, but again, two major pieces with which we emerge from tonight, right? Number one, in Chav Aleph, the Rebbe teaches us, it is not enough to want. Wanting is a wonderful first step, but perpetual wanting ultimately, again, leads to disillusionment. Wanting is great, but wanting has to translate ultimately into dynamic activity. And in Chav Beis, the need for some amount of clearing your mind. Chassidus, they call it bodidus, being alone with oneself, clearing my mind. And what do I do in that clearing of my mind? I think about the future me. And when I think about the future me for those few moments, I connect with that future me. Because I've done that, I've built up some muscle. Now, again, my ability to get to that future me has become even just a little bit easier as a result of having it done once. And that also opens our eyes in the dynamic of sin, that when we abstain and when we go ahead and are able to hold out against our Yetzer Hara, even if we relapse, we are not failures. What we are bodybuilders, spiritual bodybuilders who took a day to eat donuts. And even though now I have some more calories to work off, the muscles I developed over all that time are still with me. And because they're with me, because the muscle's still there, it'll make it so much easier for me to rebound this time around. And no matter how many times that dynamic keeps on repeating itself over and over and over, I'm not a failure. I'm building up more and more muscle each time so that every time I fail, because I now have this additional muscle, it makes it even easier to rebound this time around. Clear your mind. Think about the person you want to be. Figure out that person who you want to be. And know in those few moments, you have been zocheh to become that great individual. I will say, Shkoyach. Incredible.
Marv in the main.
Marv in the main shul.
Instead of contemplating, just engage in action.
That's what I'm saying. That's what they really want to do. Because the first part is saying, don't just contemplate, act, right? But then the second one, how do you know what you're saying? Don't contemplate.
Seems very self-indulgent.
I don't know. I think you have to. I didn't know where you're going.
I understand. Sometimes